Happy Vulnerable AF Friday, everybody. I think we're gonna make this one short and sweet. It's a beautiful day here. It's like 75 degrees right now. I really just want to chill with the windows down and just enjoy how nice it is, which I can't really do while I'm making a video. So I really quickly want to say that temporarily my YouTube will be kind of like down. Like I'm gonna probably private all of my videos in the near future, like in the next few coming days. It's just a temporary thing, but I don't know how long the temporary is going to be. I am working on some things in my personal private life where I don't necessarily want this part of me to influence my personal life, which it could. I don't think it'd be bad, but like still, like this version of me on the YouTube, right? It is me. It is authentically me, but it is not all of who I am. There are many facets to everybody, and I'm more than just what I present here on these videos, obviously. This is just a snippet of who I am. But today, kind of what's been on my mind is something that I've been finding myself dealing with lately. The abandonment wound, I guess you could say, from my trauma and my upbringing. And I feel like I put a lot of that on one of my parents in particular, because they literally were not part of my life my whole life growing up. They may remember things differently, or they may have reasons why they weren't, but the bottom line is they were not there. But I think I also felt abandoned by the parent that was there, because I felt very much like I was just a burden to them. And like they took care of me begrudgingly is how it felt. And it's weird because I do find myself having appreciation for that. Like this morning I was kind of thinking about it, like the things that I'm thankful for from that parent. You know, like they didn't have to take, I mean, not that they took the best care of me. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like they were the best parent ever. You know what I mean? But they at least took the responsibility. And it made me think about this video that I watched the other day. It was like a little reel on YouTube. And it was this guy who reacts to other people's videos. And this woman was on there talking about how, like, one day she just decided that she was going to, like, up and leave her family. Like, kids, husband, like how she wanted to like focus on herself, and how she felt like she was like incomplete or something because, you know, she was always taking care of everybody else and putting everybody else first. And like I can totally relate to that feeling, but I feel like once you enter into a commitment like marriage, and you enter into a commitment like having children, whether you wanted them or not, like that's a responsibility. And so I was kind of thinking about that video, and it kind of made me think about the parent that did raise me, and have an appreciation, oddly, even though he was very mean and very, he may not think that, he may think that he was loving and did the best he could, and I'm not here to tell him that that's not true, but that's not what I felt was happening. And I'm about to be on the freeway, so I was hoping to wrap this up before then, but I might have to roll my windows up for a little bit here in a minute. So it just kind of had me reflecting on some of that today. Just the appreciation that even though life was really hard, and it has left me with a lot of scars that crop up here and there, seemingly out of nowhere at times, or it might interfere in a way that I didn't know that it could, like the way that my abandonment has been showing up in my personal relationships, like with my friends specifically. Like if there's some kind of a disagreement or somebody's feelings get hurt, and then if I get ghosted, like all of a sudden my abandonment wound starts going crazy, and like all the work that I've done almost goes out the window. Like all the mental work I've done on myself almost goes right the fuck out the window. Like, you know, my brain starts creating all kinds of fucking stories when you're just a problem and they don't like you, and you know what I mean, and you're the problem, and why wouldn't they abandon you? Clearly there's something wrong with you right? That's the parts of me that I feel I've healed at certain points in time when I become triggered, and I don't even necessarily always realize I'm being triggered. Those parts go off in me, like a bomb, and so I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit. I haven't put a whole lot of thought into talking about it on film here, but I'm just gonna kind of, y'all know me. If you don't know me by now, I don't know what to tell you. But just kind of reflecting on that and knowing that that's something that I need to address and look at, and something I definitely want to heal, because I don't want every time. And another thing too that kind of feeds into the abandonment, it's almost like, I don't want to call it like a trigger, or I don't know how I want to describe it, but it's like, when you're in math and they talk about like exponents, and it's like, oh, it's this number squared, or it's this number whatever cubed, or whatever, right? I sometimes feel like that so the abandonment crops up, but the abandonment crops up because why? Because I hurt somebody's feelings. Okay, so I hurt somebody's feelings. Well, the best way to avoid the abandonment, right? My first line of logic says the way to avoid that feeling of abandonment is to not hurt people's feelings. But the reality is that's very unrealistic, considering the way that I was raised. When babies are born, they're like, oh, it's really important that they have touch. It's really important that they have touch. Like, a baby that's not touched will literally die, right? So when you grow up in a home where you feel like you're a burden, like one of your parents basically abandons you, and even though it's not about you, you can't not take it personal, because it affects you. It affects you. That they may not like that it affects you, and they may not want to own that it affects you, and they may not know how to apologize for it, but that doesn't mean that you're not the one sort of left carrying the bag about it. You know what I mean? So it's just not realistic to think that I'm going to be able to just magically not upset people. I'm very blunt. I'm very straightforward. Maybe there's autism. I don't know. Maybe there's ADHD. I don't know. As I've said before, when I tried to go and be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? They're like, well, first of all, PTSD. So I'm kind of limited to what I can really do about some of the things that are challenges for me in some ways. Because I'm left to sort of my own devices to try to solve the puzzle, and I don't always have all the pieces, and I can't always get the bigger picture, even though I really, really want to. So I've had a couple of situations recently where, and it's interesting too, because it's like an issue that crops up with female friends, it seems. No guy friends that I have tend to get their feelings hurt by me the way that my female friends do. And I find that interesting because I grew up with my dad and my older brother, and hanging out with my brother and all of his friends mostly. Like, I had some chick friends that I played with, but I just always found myself getting along better with dudes, for the most part. And I don't know if that's because I was raised by men, I don't really know, or raised by my dad and my brother, my older brother, growing up with them, and not having a lot of female influence except like my dad's sister and like my grandma. My dad's was like my dad's stepmom, but I consider her my grandmother. I didn't have a lot of consistent female influence, and so I think just like they're like, oh, young men need a father, boys need a father. I think children need both parents, because they're without both parents, there's definitely an imbalance. And I get it. People can't always stay together, but it's, to me, and this is me as a person who's never had a child, will probably never have a child, saying this, but only from the perspective of what I know, which is being an adult child, so I just kind of feel like, because I didn't have a lot of female interaction growing up, aside from like teachers and whatever, you know. I mean, like, I had a neighbor that looked out for me, tried to look out for me, whatever. But I didn't really have, like, any consistent female presence in my life. Like, day to day, learning what it means to be a woman necessarily. I mean, you grow up with female experiences. Like, I know I learned very on to, like, think about what I wear and how I wear it and how I'm sitting and, you know, like, all those kinds of things, right? Like, that you're a girl and, you know, you have to be careful and, like, those kind of things. But, like, makeup, self-taught. When I got into makeup and I had a curiosity about makeup, I was using my grandma's old makeup. I think she had passed away at the time. I was using her old makeup. I was getting compliments, you know, like, from people. Yeah, I was in, like, high school, you know. But yeah, there was nobody really there to, like, share that with me. And, like, I'm not saying that I'm, like, mad about it. I'm more irritated with the outcome because of it, right? So, like, the frustrating part is I feel more masculine because A, I grew up with boys. B, I was very much a tomboy. C, you know what I mean? I've had to be in a very, they say when a woman has to be in her masculine, it's because she doesn't feel safe. So when you meet a woman that's very much in a masculine energy, it's because she doesn't feel safe. And it's not enough to come along and be that masculine energy. It's just not. Like, I wish it was. I wish that was the solution. I wish that, like, a masculine presence would come into my life, which, you know, may or may not have happened. Bing, bang, boom, it's done. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I can go into being my feminine energy now, and, you know, all will be right in the world. But that's just not realistic in the way that it works. It's just like when I first left my dad, I thought, I'm going to get to be a kid now, and, like, I'm going to have a normal life, whatever the fuck normal is. And it doesn't happen like that. Like, there are so many layers of trauma. There's so many layers of, I don't know if I want to say identity, but, like, I don't know how I want to put it. Like, in my mind, I see it as constantly having to wear masks, right? Like, constantly having to wear a mask. So I have a lot of, and then I find I have a lot of anger behind that. I have a lot of anger behind that because it's like I can't even have normal, healthy relationships because that was never mirrored for me. That was never demonstrated for me. You know, and it's like I want to be mad at my parents, but I also don't want to be mad at them. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. People think that people that go no contact with their family, that they just absolutely hate them and want nothing to do with them. And that's not true. I don't know how to have anything to do with them. You know what I mean? Because it's either always draining or hurtful or damaging, or so why would I, you know what I mean? Like, you've already forced me into a place where I've become so self-reliant that it seems silly, even though sometimes the self-reliance is lonely. It seems silly to put myself in a situation where I'm putting myself up to be, you know, harmed, or, and it's like some things you can't really resolve too, I think, you know. One of my situations recently that happened where I hurt someone's feelings, you know, I feel like we were able to really resolve it, but then I have another issue where I'm kind of like, I'm still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And I'm really trying to figure out my role without taking on what's not mine in that situation. And it's hard, you know, it's hard to upset people, and then they either say they want space from you or they don't talk to you, and then your abandonment gets triggered, and, you know, it's hard. It's hard when you're in that place, and then, you know, immediately, because I'm a fixer, right? I'm such a fixer that I used to focus on trying to fix other people so I wouldn't have to focus on fixing myself. But then I had the realization later, much later than I would have liked, that I cannot fix anybody except myself. I'm the only thing I can fix. And so now that I know I'm the only thing I can fix, of course I want to fix it immediately. I want immediate change. But it just doesn't work like that. And I think that the abandonment wound is definitely something that I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with unpacking. And I think that whenever you are trying to unpack something like that, that you need solitude as much as you need community. You need time with yourself so that you can go wherever you need to go to resolve it. But then you also need to not be so, isolated that the bad intrusive thoughts start trying to come out of, this is too painful and I just don't want to be here. So you always have to be trying to find the balance, in my opinion, of dealing with some of these deep, impactful wounds that come up from when you've had trauma. And you've never, it's kind of like if you had a toy, right? And it's like a robotic toy, but it's programmed wrong from jump, and it's like malfunctioning and faulty. Like, that's sometimes how I feel as a person. And when I have those moments, it's really hard because it doesn't feel fair. And it's frustrating. And I feel like a lot of that stuff has really caused me a lot of problems in my past relationships, and definitely destroyed one of my really good ones. One that I wish I had walked away from, but such is life. Because I was definitely in the deepest throes, you could say, kind of my bullshit at that point. Like when you leave an abusive situation where you're just constantly belittled and made to feel small and made to feel like you're a burden, and you leave and you think it's done, it's over, I'm good, I'm out of it, life can only get better, and then it doesn't. Which, I mean, a lot of that is on me. Like, I'm not sitting out here trying to be like, oh, I'm just a victim, because I don't think that's the right mentality to have, even though I can understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I completely understand being in the victim mentality. I completely understand feeling like the world is against you. I completely understand feeling like you just don't even know how to fucking human. I completely get all that, but I feel like it's difficult because in a lot of ways I feel like I did myself a disservice by not taking action sooner. But then I also have to recognize that I wasn't even in a place where I could receive action that I would have taken. Like, I couldn't have received like the payout of the action that I could have taken. So it's like I try to hold myself accountable, but I have to also hold myself accountable fairly, because if I don't hold myself accountable fairly, I'm just going to beat myself up. And then we go right back into that whole spiraling of like, you're the problem, you're just not good enough. You know what I mean? Those old tapes that I've re-recorded and changed the narrative in my own mind somehow magically come back, despite all the, which is also equally annoying. Like, all the work I have done just seems to go out the window sometimes when, stuff like this pops up. And I think it's because I'm only just now getting to a point where I'm having the awareness to recognize, like, oh, we have a real strong abandonment wound here, which should not be a surprise, right? By now, for me, it should not be a surprise, but when something happens and it pops up, when something happens that causes it to rear its head, you know what I mean? Like, I struggle a lot, and it just really kind of goes to show you how deeply it can affect you that people aren't present. So it's just interesting, because I think a lot of people like to think their absence means nothing, but it can completely change the programming of someone's brain. So everybody out there that thinks that they're nobody and they're nothing and nobody's going to miss them, your absence can really fuck somebody up. Hate to tell you. You know, you just kind of disappear and ghost people and whatever. And you know, I think a lot of times if certain people ghost me, I don't care. I'm sure I've ghosted people that don't appreciate that I ghosted them. But when it comes to like the really strong relationships, you know, like your familial relationships and like your closest friends, like that's when I don't like it. You know what I mean? Or maybe I feel like it's more necessary. Like, I'm sure my family doesn't appreciate me not being in communication. And it's not to punish them. It's just because I don't know how to deal with them. You know what I mean? So, but I thought I'd talk about that a little bit and kind of get back to my roots of doing the healing work here. I know I've had a lot of opinions about a lot of like recent events, and it's fine every now and then to kind of pepper that in, but I don't want that to be part of why I quit in the past when I was on Facebook, was because I felt like I was getting too caught up in like the current events, and I feel like that's the desired outcome, is that we get so caught up in that and talking about that we don't talk about this. And this is what is most important. Me figuring out my shit is more important than someone's fucking opinion on the internet about some current fucking events. Period. So, with that, I think I'm going to close it here. It's going to be probably the shortest Vulnerable AF Friday I've ever done. I really do want to put the windows down and my hair is already down. But I love having the windows out and my hair blowing, and I don't care if it gets tangled. I don't give a shit. It just does something. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if it's clearing away bad juju. I don't know, but it's wonderful in my opinion. And there used to be a time when, again, like when I threw away probably one of my best relationships, and I was really going through the thick of my bullshit, and I was really hard on myself and beating myself up and still believing all the. This was before I had my awakening of like, that's not even you saying this shit, right? But I remember after that relationship, I had so much fucking emotional baggage, and I was so dysregulated that I had a different car, but I had a sunroof and everything, and I would just, all the windows fucking open, take my hair down, and I would just drive. I would just go north where there's just trees, nothing but trees, and I would just drive, and I would listen to music, and I would fucking cry. You know? I'm not gonna do that now because I'm on my way to work, and I don't want to be showing up all fucking you know. But just a reminder, I probably will be privating all of my videos, let's be honest. Everything's gonna kind of go dark mode, probably for a little while, probably within the next week, and for I don't know how long. So I might pop in just to be like, hey, like, still waiting or whatever, but we'll see what happens. I might go to Facebook and do them, but they won't be saved forever. They'll just be saved for 30 days and then deleted and then whatever. So, but with that being said, if you can't stand nobody fuck else today, please stand yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be loving with yourself. Don't get lost in the noise. Don't get lost in the sauce. Okay? Who does it benefit for you to be an incomplete and broken human being? It doesn't benefit you. So you can go out there and you can continue to be broken, or you can focus on the path of healing and reclaiming your identity and your sovereignty and who you came here to be and why you came here to be that. But I guarantee you didn't come here to be some rah-rah go-team individual. You weren't put here to be a follower. You're put here to be a leader. We're all put here to be a leader to some capacity. So if you're not leading, then you're being led. And who? By who? By who are you being led? So again,